So you asked about how we got involved with accessibility in the first place. And I would say that I was kind of a run-of-the-mill UXer, right? I thought it was a good thing. Of course we should do it. I wasn't a coder. It didn't seem like it was particularly my problem. Went along with my life. And then in 2000, 2002, I started getting involved in elections. And one of the things about elections is that it's a pretty wicked design problem, right? The constraints are pretty severe. Private, secret, independent, all those things all together. And it turns out that making voting systems that are usable and accessible and secure and cheap enough and, all those constraints is actually pretty hard. And I think that where hard happens is where, that's where the money hits the pavement, right? It's when you have to actually work hard to make the design work. And the more I've worked in elections, I think that 25 years after the ADA, 15 years after 508, 12 years after the Help America Vote Act, which mandates accessible voting, I don't think it's that anybody says, well, we shouldn't do it. It's that they don't still really understand what they're being asked to do. There's a checklist, it's a little scary, and so they see it as a kind of technical problem and not as much as a human problem. And that it means helping everyone. In this case, it means helping everyone participate in elections. And so at the Center for Civic Design, one of our mottos is that democracy is a design problem. And you don't get to solve wicked design problems by ignoring one of the requirements, right? That's sort of a half design solution. So I think things like every time you make the text just a little bit bigger so you can see it, you can think about the people who need it even bigger than that. And when you peer at your mobile phone screen trying to read the words on this little tiny space on the screen, you can think about people who can't see the words on that image at all, right? Because we don't get to decide what our audience prefers or what they need to interact with our products and services. But we can put our design powers into thinking about design in a way that includes more people, right? We can think about making it flexible. We're already thinking about making things flexible to devices. We can think about making it flexible to people, to the range of human experience that's out there, right? And that's why Sarah Hart and I titled our book, It's a Web for Everyone. Now, we said web, it's a nice short word, but we mean webs and apps and digital services and real-life services and everything else. And I think what happens is that if you start with a design problem and then say, let's make this existing design accessible, you end up with a kludge, or you end up with something that doesn't work very well. But if you start by saying, how can I design something that will work for people with a really broad range of ways they want to interact with you, then you end up with a service or an app or a website that actually works for all of them. And to me, that's really what accessibility is about. I know there's all these technical things that go on under the covers, right? And I'm not really a technology person. So I think that's not something I could say, yeah, technologists should know more about it. But that's telling someone else that it's their problem and not my problem. And so one of the things we can think is, which part of this is my problem? Which part of it is the thing where I can change how I'm thinking and be, well, like the day says, to be aware of accessibility, not just thinking it's a good idea.